The X-Men are in quite possibly the worst times they have ever been in, ever. I've talked many a time about the Krakoan era, and it was an absolute disaster. The X-Men have abandoned everything that they ever stood for, everything that they were ever about, and just embraced an ideology that's just ridiculous. They were basically drug dealers and having orgy island and all kind of madness. But now with Fall of X, which was supposed to get rid of the Krakoan era, and it was like, okay, no problem. I was skeptical because I knew they were going to end up doing something even worse and just make it even more of a mess. Well, no. The X-Men have literally fallen into becoming merciless killers. And even Shill media can't defend them anymore. And this how badly this entire thing has become. Let's get into this article here from CBR. The King of Shills is calling out X-Men and their nonsense. Fall of X has transformed the X-Men into amoral killers. Yep. They ain't playing no more. They out there murdering people for the heck of it. Since they were first introduced by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the 60s, the X-Men have long been the Marvel Universe's premier team of mutant superheroes. Throughout the years, they have valiantly stood beside iconic heroes such as Captain America and Spider-Man, and even eclipsed the Avengers in popularity, before the introduction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then when everybody ran to go and buy Avengers comics, they weren't getting them, and they ran to go and buy Iron Man, they weren't getting Iron Man. Captain America was a Nazi and all kind of madness. It wasn't good. However, despite their heroism, the mutant heroes have spent the majority of their careers in the unique position of being hated and scorned by the very humans they regularly risk their lives to protect, but they always did it with dignity. The X-Men were the outsiders. It was white people connected with them. Yes, they had this cool power, but they were never accepted by society. But they still did what they had to do. They had that goodness about them. Well, that's gone. Marvel's Fall of X crossover has now placed the X-Men in some of the most dire straits they have ever experienced, as the mutant-hating organization known as AUKUS has openly declared war against their entire species. The resulting attacks against the heroes have been both deadly and brutal, with the most savage strike coming in the form of an assault during the mutants' Hellfire Gala that resulted in massive casualties. Look, let me just say this. I wanted somebody to attack that Hellfire Gala and put an end to it, because it makes no sense to me. It's just basically a superhero drag show that's gone on way too long. The original Hellfire Gala, was something Chris Claremont did, was like 4 or 5 pages, and it was just the Hellfire people attending before the Sentinel showed up and started killing. That was all it was supposed to be. Now it has turned into this whole thing where every year they put on some kind of fashion show with less and less clothes on and walking around, and everybody acting like, oh, this is so fantastic. The Hellfire Gala is an absolute embarrassment and needed to be stopped. So I'll give AUKUS that. The actions of the nefarious organization have been devastating to the X-Men, scattering their remaining members across the Marvel Universe and transforming the heroes into amoral killers. Look, yes, AUKUS and what they're doing is actually really bad, but let's not pretend that the X-Men haven't been through some pretty damn difficult times. There were times when they had to live in the sewers in hiding. They had to fake their own deaths and go on the run in the outback and the wilderness to get away from all kind of stuff. You understand? They have been through, don't forget the time that they had the entire mutant population reduced to like barely 100. They were literally going extinct. They have been through a lot. So let's not act like, AUKUS and them are somehow, what they're doing is so terrible that no, No, they have no choice but to become savage killers. The whole point of most superheroes is that they hold back. They don't cross that line. I mean, think from it. You can imagine how easy it would be for Spider-Man to literally kill every opponent that he goes up against. He could kill Doc Ock, the lizard, and the rest of them in like seconds if he put it to it, but he doesn't do that. And look at Superman. He could literally split the earth in half with one punch, but he doesn't do that. You look at again at like for instance Marvel for instance. Iron Man is literally walking around in a massive weapon that could kill anybody he comes in contact with, if need be. The X-Men on the whole, Cyclops can literally melt you. Wolverine does kill people. We understand that that's kind of what Wolverine does. But like Nightcrawler to them, they could do some pretty horrendous damage if they choose to, but that's not who they were. And I use the term were because now it's something completely different. Kitty Pryde has embraced her killer instinct. One of the most beloved X-Men is now seeking bloody revenge. Well, let's read that part of this before I get into it there. Catherine Kitty Pryde was only 13 years old when she joined the X-Men in Chris Claremont and John Bryant's Uncanny X-Men number 129 and was quickly established as an easily relatable viewpoint character. She has served in the capacity in other media as well, making her one of the most recognizable and beloved members of the mutant team. Alright, she's endured a lot of it, but she's always usually retained her innocent spirit, genuinely fighting to make the world a better place for mutants. However, her optimism has been shattered by the events of Fall of X. She paved the way for the X-Men to take on a deadlier edge at the onset of the crossover, single-handedly slaughtering a team of Orchis operatives, vowing bloody revenge on the traitorous Firestar and taking the name Shadowcat to highlight the embracing of her darkest impulses. You had literal Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat, phasing guns through people's heads, phasing men halfway through concrete and leaving them to die, pushing grenades into people's chests and blowing them up. I mean, this is not what Kitty Pryde would do, because if you think, for instance, let's take a moment here and say this, most people who weren't diehard X-Men fans came to know about Shadowcat through X-Men Evolution, that series. And I have a friend of mine, his favorite character from that show is Shadowcat. He always says that he likes Shadowcat, he likes her powers, he likes her attitude, he can like that. And I'm going to say, yes, men can like a female character without it being something else. He likes the character, Understand me? He likes the character. If I tell him no about what it is Kitty Pryde is doing, the first thing he's going to tell me is that's not Shadowcat. That is not Shadowcat at all. I mean, it's one thing if you go after the heads of these organizations and take them down. Wolverine have no problem doing that, but you're killing henchmen who are just mostly getting paid to do this, and you're pushing grenades into their chests, blowing them up, phasing guns into people's heads, all kind of madness, and you act like, this is somehow supposed to be what Kitty Pryde does. This is not what Kitty would ever do. That's not Shadowcat at all. But this is what they have turned this character into. But it's not just Shadowcat. Fall of X has transformed Colossus into a remorseless killer. The kind-hearted X-Men veteran has revealed a sadistic streak. While the mutant Colossus is one of the strongest members of the X-Men, he has also been one of the most gentle. At least until the Krakoan era, recent comics have seen the veteran X-Men attempt to enjoy a quiet life only for it to be tragically interrupted. Fall of X appears to have finally pushed the powerful mutant over the edge, as he is seen in Fall of X Heroes of X #1 by Jerry Duggan and Lucas Werneck, killing one of Orcus's henchmen alongside fellow veteran Wolverine, and joking about the act, indicating that he has little if any remorse. Colossus has always kind of been the gentle giant. He's powerful, there's no denying that he's very powerful, but it's always been a gentle and kind soul. I mean, Colossus has been through a lot. You understand me? His sister died from the legacy virus. He's been hunted down on multiple occasions. He even ended up having to join Magneto's crazy band or whatever. But even with that, he still maintained Charles Xavier's mission for peace and bringing together humans and mutants. But no, you expect me to believe because Beast did some shit to him and his brother has done some crap, and because of what Orcus has done, now he's perfectly happy to become a savage killer? This is not what Colossus would ever be a part of. There's no way he would ever join in willingly on this. But you want to act like this is perfectly normal because they have been pushed to the edge. The X-Men have declared war on their enemies. While mutants like Wolverine are accustomed to resorting to fatal tactics against their enemies, many members of the X-Men are known for refraining from such measures, making their decline that much more disturbing. This is CBR right in the sense, and then even they can't defend it anymore. Even worse, many mutants who have been known for taking less violent stances are now fully embracing deadly war tactics. While this is a battle for survival for the X-Men, there is still something inherently bothersome about seeing these heroic characters operating in ways that are anything but. Kitty Pryde and Colossus have both seriously divulged from their normal natures, and leaders such as Cyclops, Professor X, and Storm have begun to accept that they are at war. Look, ever since the whole Krakoan era came about, Professor Xavier has turned into something I don't even recognize. Cyclops and Storm and the rest of them have fully embraced all of this madness, so it's not surprising. Perhaps the most tragic shift in attitude comes from the normally devout and upstanding Nightcrawler, who solemnly declares in Fall of the House of X that the X-Men are off to war. Nightcrawler was a priest, for God's sakes. You're gonna tell me he's perfectly happy with bloody murder? Jeez, you people are disturbed. Wait. I mean, you know, they go on and talk about what it is. Alright, we'll continue on a bit here. Fall of X has placed the mutants of the Marvel Universe in the fight of their lives, and there's no doubt that it has changed the X-Men. While the change is understandable, considering the stakes of their battle against Orcus, it does pose the question as to whether this diminishes them as heroes. Look, Orcus and their whole thing about how they're going to kill the mutants, they're going to kill humans, and now I believe that they're bringing the brood out. I think it's nonsense. Even worse, the enemies who end up paying the ultimate price in the X-Men's brutal crusade are not the masterminds behind their plight, but rather henchmen who more often than not are simply doing a job. This makes the actions of Marvel's mutants even more questionable and begs the question of whether the X-Men can still be considered heroes once the smoke clears, or if they have become as bad or even worse than the villains they oppose. You know what would really save all of this at this point? If they came out and let's say, you know what? All these X-Men who you're seeing here, they're all just some freaky clones, and the real X-Men have all been trapped under Krakoa Island in some stasis tubes all this time. That should have been how the whole Krakoan era should have ended to begin with. That would have made sense. But this is not anything to even be pretending about at all. This is disturbing to think that you take characters like Kitty Pryde and Colossus and turn them into vicious murderers and act like, this is par for the course because they were doing this. The X-Men against Orchis is not for something to turn them into this. They have been up against worse before, and they have always held on to what made them who they are. But when you have these writers who don't care about that, this is the kind of shit you're getting. So yeah, the X-Men are now full-on cold-blooded killers. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell to be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.